12th, 1939.
And why?
Well, at the time, why it was at the same time that Hitler was taking over almost all Europe, Poland and Austria and all those countries over there, and they started to draft into the army. So
Uh-huh.
they started drafting in the army, and I didn't want to join the army. I thought I'd better be. Thought I'd like the Navy, be in the Navy better, so I joined the Navy instead.
Okay. How old were you?
19.
Oh, that's pretty young, isn't
You
it?
know, old enough.
Okay. Where were you when World War II started?
I was I was on the Quincy, USS Quincy. We were on escorting British and Canadian and United States ships with Canadian troops on them. That was 2 days out of 2 days out of Cape Town, South Africa. And we had picked up all these ships at Halifax in Canada, and we were taking them around in the Indian Ocean to the Suez Canal. That's where the British was fighting against Hitler then, against Rommel.
Okay. Why did you go to Guadalcanal?
Well, the ship I was on, after the Pearl Harbor and everything, well, actually at that time I was on on the Atlantic Ocean, and then but most of all the fighting was going to all the Japanese when we got in war with Japan. Why they sent they would send most of the ships in the Navy because they had lost so many ships at Pearl Harbor and stuff that they needed to reinforce them because the Japanese was the biggest threat then at that time they fought to the west coast of the United States even. And so they sent, and I was one of the ship that the Quincy that I was on at that time was one of the newer ships in the Navy. It was only like 9 years old, so it was at the time. So we went to from the East Coast. We went to the Panama Canal. Went to stopped at San Diego for fuel and supplies, and went to Hawaii to Pearl Harbor, and then we went started heading towards the Solomon Islands, and that's the area about where Guadalcanal was, and when we were out there like this one morning, I still remember that uh, I woke up when we got up at dawn, and we come up and we were almost all by ourselves. I think we had 2 or 3 destroyers with us during the night before, the day before. And I woke up in the morning, and it was ships as far as I could see all around. It was about 70, 80 ships. There were 2 big aircraft carriers, battleships, we had cruisers, a lot of destroyers. I've never seen, just a whole big fleet, 2 or 3 fleets all put together. And that's where they were heading towards Guadalcanal then. It's quite a ways. I can't remember how far, but it took several days to get to the staging area at Guadalcanal. See, then they joined up with 4 or 5 big transports that were carrying Marines that were going to land on Guadalcanal. They told us this at a briefing on the ship, that they showed a picture of the island, just what they intended us to try to do. It was an airfield on Guadalcanal is what they were after. Hickam Field, I think, if I remember, is the name of it. I'm not sure. I know I'm forgetting. I'm not something like that. Anyway, it was the airfield on there is what they wanted to get back because the Japanese had control of it. So they had us or showed us what we were expected to do to go in. We went in, and the ship I was on was what as it turned out we had air support from the aircraft carriers, but the Quincy and the Quincy, the Vincennes, and there was a Australian ship too, the Canberra, I think was the name of it. Yeah, was the name of that. That was a heavy cruiser too. We'll come in between the islands, and we're going to just really attack Guadalcanal because that's where they wanted the Marines were going to. Really what our job is to blow up the beach and clean off they had shrapnel explosive shells that would wipe out anything on the beach in order to soften it up so that so that the Marines could go in on landing craft and land on the beach is that's what our job was. And, when we went in, it was early in the morning, real early in the morning. And the Quincy I was on was the first ship going in between.
What was your job on that ship?
I'll tell you, but I'll have to explain a little because I was the main battery director pointer is what my job is. And what that does is about the deck above the main bridge. There's a housing that holds a big telescope and the rangefinders, and it was a control on a pedestal with two people on it. One was the pointer, and the other was a trainer. And it would train out and to aim at wherever they wanted to fire the 8-inch guns. And whenever you would move the trainer either move it sideways or up and down on with hand wheels, there was pointers on there's the same people that had the same job were in each one of the 3 big turrets, and they wouldn't aim their guns. They would just match pointers. What they were like lights. And as long as they kept them together, well, then their guns would be all pointed the same place that the director would be. And when they're all loaded and go, where there's ready lights on, like in front of the director pointer of the job I had, there was ready lights all 3 turrets. And those guns were ready and loaded, well then the gun captain at the big turrets would put a switch in and would light the light in front of me. So I knew that all 3 turrets were ready to fire. And when they told me, well, when we went in there, they actually, when we went to Guadalcanal, there was like a little village right on the edge of the water. We couldn't see the airfield; it was too far inland. But there was a gunnery officer that was on right. His station was right back of this director, and he was the one to give the orders to fire or what to do. And he gave me the orders, or me and the other fellow that was training this thing to, when we got on a target, he just opened fire on the beach, went on. So when we went in about, I think it was only like 6 o'clock in the morning, just after it got dark, started getting light, we told it. So we opened fire on it, and every time, see when the director pointed, there's I don't know, it was like a brass wheel with a trigger on each side, and one was a buzzer, the other one was a firing pin. And when you were just about ready to fire, you pull the trigger on the warning buzzer that you were going to fire, and then when it was, and you'd elevate the guns to follow the roll of the ship, and when you've got your sights set on right where you want to do, you pull the other trigger, and all 9 guns would go off. It was what they call a salvo. We'll shoot a salvo of 9 8-inch shells would go. You could and go shoot them at the beach. So when I fired them, I think it was 32 rounds, as I recall. I knew we did keep count of them kind of. I knew they did. As we went up and down the beach, just on the first run going through the and then the other ships were following back, was doing the same thing.
It says, I'm just going to read a passage from this book. It says, the first amphibious operation carried out by the United States during World War II took place on August 7, 1942. It inaugurated a long and bloody campaign for control of an island of the vast strategic importance. In Japanese hands, this island threatened to supply routes from Hawaii to New Guinea and Australia. In American hands, it would prove to be the anchor for a drive into the Japanese Empire. Where was the Quincy on August 7, 1942? Okay, what happened then?
Well, okay. We went in on the 7th. I think I recall on the 7th. Okay, went into Guadalcanal, and after we made our runs to shell the beach. Why we went into a bay, and then the big transports started unloading their ship, their landing craft, and sending the Marines in on the beach. And so actually what we did then was really backed off to guard to watch regarding the troop transports that were just laying out in the bay, offshore about a couple miles. And we stayed there. I forget the name of the bay. I think there is a name of the bay in between Tulagi and Savo Island and Guadalcanal. There's 3 islands and there's a bay. I think they call it. I don't think it's Guadalcanal. I can't remember the name of the bay now. But there is. They did have a name. I'm sure. Anyway, the big troop transports were just going real slow and just going around in circles out there, unloading the Marines and supplies on the small boats, landing craft going back and forth. These just keep going back and forth, a couple hundred of them. And then for the next, we stayed there for 3 days. We were there the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th before, doing the same things, going around in big circles, really, at about 5 knots, which is about 5 or 6 miles an hour, just barely so you could steer the ship.
Okay. What was the first thing that you shot at? When you attacked Guadalcanal?
Oh, at night. Well, we were actually I happened to be on my gun watch on this director pointer, and I happened to be on station when we took turns being off some so we could sleep, but basically we were on full alert the whole time while this was going on. But I was on my station, on my gun station then, when it was about 10:30 at night on the night. I got orders. I heard it came over the phone to the gunnery officer back me to train out to the starboard side, off the starboard bow, and pick up the searchlights, and which we did. But we were sitting right on the thing. We just could only take a few seconds to do that. And another order came on back from us almost immediately. It says, pick up the searchlights and open fire. So we did. I did. I opened up. I fired, I think, three salvos at what all we could really see was the searchlight, so we couldn't see it while we were shooting it, except we knew it was a ship. And they were firing. The ship, you could see the flashes of their guns, but their shells, as far as I know, never hit us. But there was also some submarines and just Japanese submarines and destroyers that came in from around the island, back to the other island, like Tulagi, and within 15-20 minutes, while our ship was hit with 3-4 torpedoes, all on the starboard side. They slammed the gun through the whole group. One of the torpedoes itself hit the number 2 magazine underneath the second turret. The one right in front of the bridge. There's two in front of the bridge and one in the stern, and it blew the whole turret, which is a big, with the 8-inch gun, it blew the whole thing right off over the side of the ship. And it takes about 60 men to man that turret, to man that from the magazines to the guns, and it blew it just like a skyrocket, blew it right off the thing. And we lost power, our phone system, so we went to a standby, to emergency system, and we found that number 2 was bad, but number 3 turret was jammed or had hit with a bomb, because they had aircraft over the bomb was too. Hit it with a 500-pound bomb and disabled that, so the number one turret was the only one that was ready to still fire. So what the orders were to let the fire, they transferred the control them, because there was no use us relaying back and forth, because the communications wasn't we couldn't tell what they were doing. We couldn't tell when they were loaded or anything. So we turned it over to turn the thing over to them. So actually, the guns were all out of commission by that time. As far as I knew, I mean, I was concerned that the 8-inch turrets were either disabled or we had no control of them.
Why were the Japanese able to attack?
Well, from what I was able to understand, we had aircraft carriers. There was 2 or 3 aircraft carriers that were with us at the start. That's on the 7th. And their job was to supply air, as I understand. This is what I understand, I've always understood about this, that they were supposed to supply Air Force air covers to us and this whole operation, the Marines going in, everything, and until the Marines the job was complete. They got all the Marines they wanted ashore. Well, but this is supposed to be, I've heard this, that this was supposed to be finished in 2 days, and they didn't get it done in time. So from what I understood, the Air Force or the aircraft carriers must have had orders from whatever, AMO or what, they sent them someplace else. So they pulled the air coverage off, and that's how the Japanese got in. The Japanese, otherwise, the Japanese would have never got anywhere near us without knowing it. Plus the fact that all our ships, we had radar on, but the radar back then was so really primitive. It was, it was the newest thing, the only thing that they had, but it wasn't. But the thing is, what it did was a radar would shoot a signal out, and if it hit a ship, it would bounce back, and there was a ship out there. But we were in between all these islands, and the radar would just hit the island and come back, so we couldn't tell what was on the other side of the island. And the Japanese were just able to come in on the blind side of the islands and then make a swing right through from in between the islands. And when they come through, they knew we were there, and we didn't know they were coming. And so they just opened fire, and then anything that their radar could pick up or whatever they were using, they just blew the hell out of everything.
Yeah. What was it like having the ship hit by a torpedo?
Well, the ship that ship was on, it only took about 20-25 minutes, and we knew that the captain, the bridge below us, and everything, everybody on it had been killed, and we even where this gun, the station I was on, it had armor plate, some around all over. It's a round turret-like thing, and it had this little slot so lookouts could put binoculars through for lookouts, And when the bridge below got hit with a bomb, and it blew up all the signals, the pyrotechnics, they call it, their flares and stuff like that, and all the when you looked out all these slots for lookouts, it looked like you were in a furnace, the whole thing all the way around. So we really thought we were going to be cooked. But pyrotechnics burnt fast, but in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, it stopped, and it never got. We were protected enough that it never bothered anybody in ours. But then with the gunnery officer was a lieutenant commander, was with us, was here, and he got the word from other places on the ship that the captain and the commander, who was the 2 senior officers on the ship, were both killed, and that made him the senior officer on the ship. In other words, he was the captain of the ship, was standing right with him again. So then he had also word that all the guns were out of commission, and the ship was listing really bad to port. That's to the left side, and he just gave us orders to abandon ship.
Okay. So how did you actually get out of the ship then?
I had to climb down. We had to climb down. The station I was on was about 5 decks above the ship, which is about 60-70 feet above the main deck, where we were. We had to go down ladders to climb down. So we climbed down all the way down to the main deck, and the main deck, at where the bridge is, which is on the ship like that, was about 25-28 feet normally above the water. The water, from the main deck down. Well, by the time we got done, the ship was listing to port so much that the water was within a foot of the main deck. It was listed over and sinking. The ship was sinking. And so what they were doing was throwing all the life. We didn't even wear life jackets, by the way. That was mandatory. They didn't have them. They didn't even have them. They had these big. They had big life rafts. A lot of them. They were throwing some of them. The guys that were still around. They were throwing them over the side, and figured that they would jump off over the side and swim to them, and get to them and hang on to them. Safe.
How many people were on the Quincy, and then how many survived?
recall, there was about 1,160 men and officers when we went into Guadalcanal. And about 460 or 70 got off. The rest of them all went down the ship or got killed way before, blown with by that. Say the two magazines that blew the whole inside of like all of the engineers and stuff that were running the engines and stuff like that below decks. Almost all of them got killed. Almost all.
Okay, how long were you in the water?
We went. It was as far as I can remember on it. I went. It was about 11 or 11:30, something like that at night when the ship sunk. We went over the side and I could swim and I was hanging onto a 5-inch gun shell case. The powder that goes on a 5-inch gun shell. Each one of them came in a watertight case. And some of those were floating. I hung on to, like, grabbed up after I went over the side. I grabbed a hold of one of them. It was hanging out of that. I watched the ship in the moonlight with the 4 big screws. The propellers on the back were still turning slow. And it went right, went down. And that was about 11:30, quarter to 12 at night. Is that the closest I can remember.
Yeah. What happened when you were in the water?
Well, on the water, I held on to one of these 5-inch gun casings for, I don't really know how. I never could remember it because it was quite a while, an hour, half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, more. But only on that. But then I drifted. I was with a couple other guys that were doing the same thing, and we drifted. We heard some guys yelling. And so we kind of paddled our way towards what we could hear, because this was in the middle of the night. It was dark, and we went to, we finally connected up with some guys that had these big life rafts, and they were like the inside of it was big, almost as big as this rag right here. And they were like, with a netting inside, like a platform, and they had ropes around the outside. They had 3 or 4 of those tied together. They had guys that got together with them and had tied them together, and I got to one of those, and just hung on to the side. And what they did was ask anybody that was hurt or burnt or anything like that couldn't swim, why they put them on the inside, and then they said that anybody that wasn't hurt, but it was just hang onto the ropes on the outside. But I wasn't hurt, so I just did that.
Were there like sharks in the water?
We didn't know. We didn't know it. We didn't. As far as I know, we were very disturbed about that because a lot of the men were bleeding too, and there were a lot of them were burnt. The ones that were, more of them were burnt bad than they were blown or like shot or anything. It was just from that.
Okay. Like when did you get rescued?
We got rescued. Well, about 2 hours. We were on this raft for, I just estimating about 2.5 hours, and we could hear a ship coming. We could do it. You could see a silhouette against the sky of the ship coming. And we had quite a discussion on whether because on all these life rafts there is emergency kits on it for water, and they had flashlights on it too for signaling. And we had a quartermaster was one of the guys that was on the ship on this raft with us that knew how to signal with a light, with a Morse code. And we had a discussion whether we should signal to show them that we were in the water there, But then the thought was discussed also. We didn't know if it was Japanese or not. If it was a Japanese ship, and we signaled to them, they would come by and just shoot us off. So the consensus of opinion was that if we didn't do anything, we were going to drift out to sea because the current was already taking us away out from the islands. And we would be out, and would be from sharks or something. We'd probably get all perished anyway. So we figured it was a 50-50 chance. Why we did, and we did signal it, and they picked it up, but it was our destroyer.
What happened after that?
Well, the destroyer came alongside. Stopped, came alongside. They put cargo nets and stuff over the side, and the guys came down to help the wounded up on the ship, everything else, and we went. And they put us up and they took us on shore on this destroyer, and all of us that they told us to just go down lay down in the bunks from the cruise where they slept, you know. So that's what we did. I mean, that's what I did anyway. I don't know what all did. Went down on that end, but we were laying down there for about an hour, and all of a sudden the guns on this destroyer started pounding away. And somebody, I remember somebody hollered, "Them son of a bitches are coming at us again, you know, coming after us again, you know." We figured that's what they, what it was, so we went up on deck really, but there was this British, or the Australian cruiser, Canberra, was sinking, was laying over the side and sinking, and they had all the men and everybody off, and that they could get off, and they told this destroyer that happened to be out, they picked us up to shoot shells into the side of it to sink it. So they wanted, so no other ship would run into it, because it was just almost, it was less on the surface, so that's what they were doing.
Okay, so how long did you stay on that for?
I stayed on that only for one day, and then we rendezvoused with a troop transport, that one of the troop transports that were bringing the Marines, that the Marines came in on to Guadalcanal, and they put us on that, all of the ones that were picked up out of the water, off the Quincy. Because there was another ship, there was couple other ships were sunk there. Vincennes was another one. That was the same ship, Vincennes was the same identical ship as the Quincy. I mean, it's the same, came from the same yards, only about a year apart or so. They were the same, looked the same, they were exactly the same ships. And I was put on that, was transferred on from the destroyer onto a troop transport, and we went to another island, I'm sure it was New Caledonia. And we anchored there, and I was only when there one day, and they transferred me, they signed it, because I wasn't hurt. And there was some other ships, and there were asked for, it said that they were shorthanded, they needed more people on the ships, and they transferred me to a ship called the Sumner, USS Sumner, which was a survey ship. And that's what, in fact, it's 2 days after that, went right back to Guadalcanal on that, and on the survey ship we went to Talagi, or not Guadalcanal, which is another island across, just another, to make a fleet. The ship that I was transferred to was a survey ship and what it did was make maps of harbors. They made their own maps and everything right on the ship. They did the surveying, then it made the buoys and channels, marked the channels and everything so the other ships could come in and anchor.
All your gear that was on the ship?
Well, everything. The only thing I got, actually what I was wearing was just dungarees, t-shirt, white t-shirts is all, and shoes. And before you ever went over the side, I threw my shoes out. I kicked my shoes on. You don't swim with shoes on. I mean, everybody knows how to swim, but know that because they're just intentional. And actually, I went all the stuff I had, my billfold, and all my identification, my class ring from Marmion, and things like that that was in a locker, my locker, or it all went out of the ship. I got transferred on a thing. I didn't get, I think it was something like 8 or 9 months I was on the Sumner, and they didn't have a uniform, nothing to fit me. Only thing they had could fit me was jeans, and I cut them off, made shorts out of them, and t-shirts. I never owned a real uniform until we got sent to, on the Sumner, we got sent to Sydney, Australia, for repairs, because something was wrong with one of the main engine on the ship, and they had to go there to go alongside of a repair ship in order to have it repaired. And when we got there, there was a supply ship in Sydney too, and then I was over to go over there. I went over there and got a whole new set of uniforms. That was like 9 months after it was something like that.
And then where did you go from there?
Well, I went to quite a few islands in the Pacific, the Solomon Islands, and whatever the names were. So I spent about a year and 10 months, year and 9 months on the Summer going. In fact, is the last place that I was I was from Australia, or from in Sydney. We went up to New Guinea, which is up north going towards the Philippines, and we were surveying for a harbor up there, an island up there in New Guinea, and when I got a chance to, they were asking for people to wanted to go to mine sweeping school, so I volunteered for that because I knew it'd send me back to the States mostly. I didn't know what I was getting into, but that's what they, so they sent me back to all the way to San Diego on another ship, and then they gave me a 30-day leave, but I had to come home, and then I had to go to Little Creek, which is by Norfolk, Virginia, for a mine sweeping school.
Well, that's about all. Thanks for letting us interview you.